Hello, and welcome back to App Drops, the series where we highlight the Webflow apps that help you work smarter and get things done faster. Today, we're talking forms and how you can turn submissions into automated workflows that send data wherever you need it. Forms are one of the most powerful tools in Webflow. Whether you're capturing leads, signups, or survey responses, that data doesn't have to stop inside your project. With the right apps, you can send form data directly to your CRM or marketing platforms with no extra tools or manual exports. Today, we're going to take a look at a few apps that make this easy work from directly inside Webflow. First up is ActiveCampaign. Connect your site's forms to ActiveCampaign and automatically send new submissions as contacts or deal updates. This app is perfect for nurturing leads or triggering automated email campaigns right after someone fills out a form. Next, there's Hubspot. If your team uses Hubspot for marketing and sales, this app makes it simple to map form fields to your contact properties so every submission becomes a part of your CRM. In our demo today, we give a quick spin of what it looks like to set up an integrated Hubspot form and then design it with the MCP server. And for even more flexibility, there's Form Connector. This app lets you connect your forms to a range of supported external services, from Airtable and Google Sheets to Salesforce, giving you control over how and where your data flows. All right, those are the apps. Now let's jump into the demos. Let's jump into ActiveCampaign. So ActiveCampaign allows you to connect your forms and send your form data to ActiveCampaign from Webflow, and they allow you to do it through the app through a couple of different ways. So you can either sync your existing Webflow forms, or you can embed an ActiveCampaign form, and then you also have some opportunities to enable site tracking, so you can get analytics and goals here. So I'll enable that. And one thing to note is when you do enable site tracking, it will, I think it will publish your site, but this app can also publish your site. So just make sure that when you're setting this up, everything, all changes that you're making to your site, you want to be published, or do this at a later phase. You can also enable event tracking. You'll need an event key and an act ID to then map to goals that you want people to complete. So if you want people to see a certain element on your site, you can do that. And then if we go back, we can see the two ones that we're going to focus on today, which is syncing Webflow forms and embedding forms. So let's do the first one, which is syncing Webflow forms. And it says we have a contact us form. It automatically saw that because we are already locked in or focused on the form block, it can see our contact us form and it gets the form ID. It says, do you want to set up the sync? We do. It says form submissions will create contacts in ActiveCampaign. And if you have enterprise access, custom fields will be stored as custom objects for advanced data. So that's something to know if you're an enterprise customer on ActiveCampaign. We're going to set up the sync. I'm going to select my list. I have a master contact list, or I could create a new one. I'll go ahead and map my fields. It's going to ask me to make sure I want this configuration. Do you want this form to link to this list? I do. And then it's going to say, check your field names and make sure you haven't modified anything. When you modify any of the field names in Webflow, you might break your sync. So be sure that all your field names are set up. And this is kind of, again, one of the last polished steps that you're doing. So here, I have a first name that I can link to first name in ActiveCampaign. I have a last name. I'll link it to the last name. I have a select field. Oh, no, I don't have a select field. I'm taking the select field. I have an email. I'll put that in the email, and a phone, and I'll put that in the phone number. So I feel like that's all I wanted to map. That's fine. I could add additional field mappings if I wanted to. I can remove them. I can create a new field straight here. So actually, let's do that. I have a department, and it's a radio button. So I'll create that field. And I'll add the field mapping that says department to, oh, it already did it. Sorry. I have to just say department. All right, so that's new and matched. And now I can add any tags if I want. So I'll say contact us Webflow. I'll create that tag, and I will start the sync. So my sync is activated, and I can publish my Webflow site to see how this will work. So I'll go to my preview page, which I can do either from the app or from the publish button. I'll just do it from the app. And I will grab my contact us and I'll input on the form my favorite character, Zaphod Beetlebrox. He'll be in investments and he'll be Zaphod from heartofgold.starship. Our number will be 609-867-5309. And our message will be, hello, ActiveCampaign. We will submit this. We get a nice thank you message. And let's go and look at our contact list in ActiveCampaign. Perfect. So Zaphod came in. I can look. He came in at 11/7/2025. We have the tag here, contact us. We have the department that came in straight from our radio field. So we have investments. We can now start to do any of the automations that we want to from here, and based on, maybe the domain or the area code, whatever it might be, we now have this into our CRM and our marketing automation system that will let us do that. So that is one way that you're able to connect your forms from Webflow to ActiveCampaign. Another way to use ActiveCampaign with Webflow is to use their forms. So they have forms that you can embed and you can set them up here. You can also trigger automations from these forms as well. Additionally, you can trigger an automation from your Webflow form if you add a tag to it as well. So it depends on what you're comfortable with. You can edit the form here, and then in Webflow, you'll go to the ActiveCampaign app here. I'll close it and let's start from scratch because I played around with this a little bit. But you'll open up the ActiveCampaign app, go to your workspace, and click the embed button instead of sync. And here you'll see forms that you've already set up or that your team has already set up that you can just embed straight from here. And when you press embed, what you'll see is that it'll be added as the last child of the selected element. So I don't really want this in the nav bar. I might want this in the page wrapper. So you can go ahead and do that and then publish your site. So one thing I found was when I published a little too fast, I would not see the form right on my site. And I think that just had to do with caching. So when I actually went to my link in incognito mode, I did see the form. So just don't panic. Maybe check in incognito mode to make sure that yours sets up. But here you can go ahead and just type in your information. Vic, I won't do the email here, or do the phone number here. But just as you can submit in your Webflow forms, you can also submit on these pop-up forms. It has animations and things like that you can also add. So check that out. You can go back to the app, see all of your different forms. So you can see the synced Webflow forms. You can see all the published forms that you have, as well as the embedded forms and your site tracking. So remember, if you want to get your analytics into ActiveCampaign, you can also see that, as well as your event tracking. So there's a lot you can do here, especially depending on how deep you go with ActiveCampaign, but there's a lot that brings the website and the marketing automation together that's really enabled by this app. So we're really excited to see it in the store or in the marketplace, and would love to hear your feedback on how you're using it, what you like about it, what automations are you creating, and what other people should learn from it. Okay, we are on our AstroFund site, and we're going to look at some forms. So down here at the bottom, I have a form, and I want to hook it up to Hubspot. So I'm going to go to the Hubspot app. I'm going to launch it, and if you haven't been to the Hubspot app, you'll need to authenticate, but once you do, you'll be shown this forms on this page section. And you'll see I have a form on this page, and I can't see it just because there's a component. So I need to enter into the component, and now I see my form. I've already mapped this, but the idea is that you map your fields to the fields that you have in HubSpot that you're capturing in HubSpot. So I've already mapped email. Once you map email, you can't remap it because it's such a unique identifier. So once I did this, I'll publish. And if we go down to my form, I can go ahead, type in a name, submit, and I will see that name come up right here. And then from here, I can do any flows that I want to do. And that's the quick and dirty of HubSpot. However, this is a pretty easy form. If we go over to my contact us page, I have a little bit of a more complicated form with some radio buttons, some phone numbers, a message. And if I try to use the same approach here, so let me jump into the component, I'll see I have some fields mapped, but some fields are unsupported because I can't map them. So you'll see here, some fields are not mapped or supported review before publishing. So I need to take a different approach here. What I can do is I can either add a HubSpot form that I already have, or I can create a new Webflow form. So I have a HubSpot form over here that kind of try to replicate the style of my website, but it's not there. And it's got the first name, last name, it's got the department to contact, as well as required field setup, a phone number. So very similar, but it also is now already all linked to the fields that I have in my CRM. And not only that, there's some routing logic I have too. So if somebody chooses banking, they get a different onboarding experience than if they chose investments. And the great thing about that is if I choose to create this form in Webflow, I'm still going to get all of that functionality that I already set up. So the person who is focused on setting up the logic and the form flows can focus on that in HubSpot, and the person focused on the design can then already leverage that work that's been done while they're designing on the website. So what I would do is, let me go back to forms on this page, and I would say add a HubSpot form. I would say Astral Fund, find the form that I want. And you'll see I have iframe or developer embed. I think iframes are pretty straightforward, and I really want to focus on this developer embed because it's very interesting. So if I go over to the contact us form container, I can go ahead and add this developer embed. And what that does is HubSpot adds all new elements to the page that link directly to the HubSpot form. And it updated custom code so that it links directly to my CRM if anybody fills this out. You see it's unstyled, but we will get to that. So when we open up this form, it's called the WF-HS underscore renderer. And you'll see all these different classes that were created. If I blow this out, you'll see all these different WF-HS classes that are all Webflow HubSpot classes. And all of these classes have custom attributes that allow information to go from Webflow to HubSpot. So I don't want to change any of these classes or replace any of these classes because all of the logic is set up here, but I do want to style them. And there are different ways I can do that. HubSpot requires you or wants you to have your app open when doing updating in different states. So you can see what a submitting state would look like. You can see what a success state would look like. You can see what an error state would look like. And we even have this really awesome drop down for phone numbers for different phone numbers across the world. So I would have this open to style all of that. But for my default style, I'm actually going to take a shortcut and use the MCP server because I already have a baseline form that was styled. All I need to do is apply these styles to this form. And I don't think it's going to get me 100% there, but I think it can give me a head start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the MCP server bridge app on the Webflow Designer. And this is required anytime you want to make design changes from the MCP to Webflow. This will need to be open. All right, so let's open up Cursor. I already have a prompt that I wrote and I will share. It is very in-depth about how to approach style replication, but hopefully it can be reused and improved upon. So I have the prompt here and say use this prompt on this form component, and it needs to be in a component, so I'll click the component. If there are any layouts and styles that exist in the source but are not from the target, let me say ensure all layouts and stylings are replicated at the highest fidelity, apply styles intelligently to any new styles, use sites list to get the ID, and the component is selected. Because in my prompt, I've asked the component to be selected. So we'll see how this goes. All right, so it got all of its context it needed. It got all the styles, it got all of the elements, and it knows which styles, and now it's actually using the styles tool to apply. So we're seeing the inputs, we're seeing the different buttons change. I think it could do a bit more. It said it updated 5 styles. I'm going to say at the necessary breakpoints and pseudo states. And so far, so good. One of the things that might look a little different is I just need to throw my variable mode on here. So I'm using dark mode. And as soon as I do that, this is looking way more. And you can see from the prompt, it's getting these to-dos. It's getting all of the unique source styles. Then it's batching and updating them. And it's doing it at a 10 style batch. And then it's spot checking as well as giving me a summary afterward. And definitely, if you try this, let me know how the prompt works for you or how you might have changed or improved the prompt to better fit your needs. But this is, let's just do what we have here. So we had a little bit of a timeout. That's fine. Let's look at what we have in preview mode real quick. So, okay, so in preview mode, our first name, last name do sit side by side. That's interesting. Our department of contact still is not horizontal, but we can change that. We need to make a little change here. But so far, so good. The only thing also is that I'm just going to ask the MCP. Let's see. Let's look at this form wrapper. Can you make the inputs the width of the form wrapper if only one input is on a single line? I feel like that's it. And I will fix this here. Oh, where'd it go? This I'll just turn into a block, or we don't even need that. We just need to do the radio group. And these specifically will turn to a grid. Go. And then all right, the MCP server is yelling at me in ways I did not expect. So it's fine. We'll just go and, just make our own little improvements. See what that does. Okay. So there. Oh, and it did it. Amazing. It told me it couldn't, but it did it anyway. So if we look at this form, we messed up the first name, last name. That is now, they're now on the same line. But we kind of have what we had in our starter. Think we got all the light mode, dark mode. This is brand new, and I can just remove this background, just have it go back to the baseline. And this is really cool. So now let's go ahead and publish. Actually, our submit button looks great. I'm going to go ahead and hide my form block. I'm just going to hide it. And instead, I'm going to have this form show up. So, I mean, it looks pretty good. I think we would change these radio buttons, but I wanted you guys to see, you can use the MCP server to get started. You might want to change this from hello to first name, but where that exists, I don't know. I'm not going to mess with it. Let's see. Hello, value hello. So we can change this to first name, change this to last name. And that might have been actually the MCP server. That might not have been Webflow specifically. So, or HubSpot specifically. So now let's test this out. I'm going to publish. I'm going to go to our form. Look at that beautiful form. Amazing. It's already filled in. And one of the things I wanted to show you too is HubSpot has some really cool features for its forms that you can also leverage in Webflow. So I've got this phone number. If I write 555, 555, 555, it's going to be like, that's not a real phone number. Why would you do that? Instead, I need to give it a phone number we all know, 867-5309, or at least, and then maybe put +1. There we go. And then we can call Jenny, as well as send her a message that says, hello world. So I'll submit this. Form is submitting. And like I said before, there's custom logic. So because I picked banking, HubSpot routed me to this request a meeting flow. But if I go back and I chose investments, I get submit. And now I get the thanks for submitting the form sign. So all of that extra stuff that someone might have done on the front end in HubSpot, or on the logic side of setting it up in HubSpot, automatically flows into your form in Webflow. You just get to focus on the styling. So we had some fun with the MCP server. It looks pretty bang on. It looks pretty great. And we were able to get all of this functionality from HubSpot, including phone number recognition. We're getting required fields. If we go back, we'll see that if I remove this, right, this field is required. We can style this as well, but we just wanted to show what is here. So go ahead, check out the HubSpot app, see how you want to style your forms, whether you want to bring in the HubSpot form and use this developer workflow, whether you want to do the mapping, all that's up to you. But the real goal is for you to get your information into your lead system and your CRM so that you can go ahead and do the automation marketing work that you've already set up with the customers that you're getting on your website. All right, let's jump into Form Connector. So Form Connector is a bit different from the other apps because you can connect to multiple different form destinations. So here you'll see you can connect to Salesforce, Airtable, Google Sheets, Notion, HubSpot, and then you can also connect to Slack and Gmail to get notifications. And then the development team is really interested in knowing what other integrations you might want, so you can also request an integration down here. I'm going to go ahead and connect to Airtable since I already have a base set up here. So I'll need to say the Airtable base I want to look at is Form Connector and grant it access. And once that's all done, I can close this. And Form Connector knows that I've created that connection, who created that connection, and when it was last updated, which is great. And now jumping into the home screen, I have a couple options. I can map a new Webflow form. I can manage my forms. I can manage integrations. I can manage who gets notifications for any failures. I can manage custom scripts and see submission logs. I'm going to go into Manage Forms. And here I can see all forms by pages or status. So here in my Contact Us form, I have this on my Contact Us page. And right now there's no destinations connected. So I can go ahead and edit this to start setting up a destination and mapping the fields. So let's say, where do you want to connect this to? I'll connect this to Airtable, map the fields. The first place is, where should it go? It should go to that Form Connector base that I allowed Airtable to, or Form Connector to see through my settings. And then I can actually auto-create the table from the Webflow form, or I can use an existing table. I'm going to use my table 1. And then I have a really cool feature here that says, do you want to manage updating existing fields or existing records if a form submission matches? So if someone submits the form twice, should I just create 2 new submissions, or should I update a single submission? I'm going to say yes, update, and I'm going to say update on the email field because it's saying what is the field to match on? What's that field to detect the duplicate? That's the email field. I feel like that's the most unique one. You can add a secondary one, but I'm just going to stay here. Then it's going to ask me to confirm these settings. Yes, that's where I want it to go. And now it's going to ask me to map my fields. So what I'll do here is I press this auto map button, and that auto maps anything with the same name. And then from there, you can go ahead and start mapping anything that just might be a little bit different. So first name didn't have a space. Then we have last name. Then we have phone, which I have a crazy name for that one, and message, which is your message here. Now in Airtable, I have this field called tag, and I was wondering if Form Connector could manage some information that not necessarily came from the user, but maybe came from the flow, like a UTM or a query parameter. So here I'll just tag, and I've got the basic mapping. I can choose a single field, I can combine fields, or I can type in a value. So it's like this always comes from Webflow. Or I can do advanced mapping by adding custom values, query parameters, or UTM tracking. I'm going to try query parameters. And one of the things before, I went through this demo before, but the same thing with query parameters, it said to do UTM tracking or the query parameter, you'll need to install a script on your site. So I did that, I enabled that, and then it also added a small custom attribute on my form. So if I jump into my form, jump in and edit, you'll see I've got a small custom attribute that lets the form connector know that it's going to send the query params. So what that would look like is in UTM tracking, if I wanted to enable that, it says, hey, I've got some advanced mapping features. I'm going to first add the custom script, and then I'm going to add the custom attribute. And then once you do that, it wants you to publish your site. So we've already done that. And so what I'll do here is I will say the custom attribute or the query param I want is source. So I'll say save, and then I'll check that to save it. And now I'll save the mapping and turn on the connector. So now we've got our connector turned on. Let's go try this out on our site. So I'll go here, grab my staging link, and because I wanted to use that UTM, I'm going to load it again at source equals app drops. So from here, I'll type in the name of my favorite hoopy food, Zaphod Beetlebox. I'll give him the investments contact. I will add the phone number and I'll say, hello, form connector. Really easy peasy. Let's submit this and let's go see what is added in form connector first. So in form connector, I have submission logs here and I can look at these submission logs. They're in beta. I might have done a couple tests off screen, but let's look at my latest test. So you can see here what was submitted, which form it was submitted at, on what page. And you can also, I think that's about it that you can see, but you can also see where it went to, which is really nice. And then you can see if anything was failed. Nothing was failed, so I'm not going to get any issues. So that's really great. We'll wait for this to confirm that it went to Airtable, and now let's go look in Airtable. So I had already, what you'll see here is I had already submitted Zaphod, but what it did was it updated some things. So if we look in Airtable, we can see that in the activity, I made edits here. So first I created Zaphod, and then when it updated it because it realized it was a duplicate, which is really nice. And then lastly, it did add that tag here, app drops, from the UTM, or not the UTM, the query parameters. So that's really great too. So I can get some unique information that maybe marketing wants to track from where somebody was filling out that form or what unique link they clicked. So this is excellent and super easy to follow. I really enjoyed setting this up, setting the forms up. I would set up another form, and I didn't feel like I needed a lot of technical knowledge to connect to really common places where people want to connect. I feel like this is a really solid app. It lets me know which forms are unmapped in case there are some that I want to keep continuing to map and I don't want any unmapped forms on my site. It also shows me the status, the destination. So, and I think one of the cool things about this is you can connect to more location. So I can send this to Sheets, I can send this to Airtable, send this to Salesforce, wherever this information might be needed. So give Form Connector a spin. Let me know if you want to use a different integration and how that went. I felt like the Airtable setup was very, very easy and would definitely try this again. All right, that's it for this month's App Drop. We're always excited to show off how Webflow's APIs and marketplace apps can transform the way you build and manage your sites. And we are so thankful to our developer community for constantly coming up with great ideas to help Webflow users. If you have questions about our APIs or ideas for your own app, drop them in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. In addition to the apps we've covered today, there are over 300 apps in the marketplace that can help with everything from syncing your CMS data to your preferred tools to generating sitemaps and wireframes as you get started with your Webflow project. To see these apps in action, head over to the Webflow Marketplace or open up the apps panel in your sidebar. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.